First Player Impressions.
First Player Impressions was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Welcome to First Player Impressions, the show where you get to learn a little bit about a game from someone who's only played the game a little bit, or sometimes even not at all. I'm DJ Who Did It, and here's your host, the Invincible Cuppa Joe. What? Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Cuppa Joe, and this is a very special episode of First Player Impressions. And if you're wondering why, it is because this is the first episode of First Player Impressions, and without the first episode, by its very definition, no other episode is possible. Thank you. I appreciate you all for being here with me for this momentous occasion. And to make this special episode even more special, we have some extra special guests here ready to lather some of their special sauce on this #1 special of an episode. I'd like to introduce you all to our first guest, Mom. Come here, girl. Come squirt some of that special sauce on me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you, Daddy. Would you like a cookie? I baked cookies.
Oh, these cookies are delicious.
Oh, ho, ho, ho. I'm going to have to give you another cookie after the show.
Oh, yes. Yes, you do. So, tell us what brings you here today.
Well, I have a son. I'm sure you all know him. He's the newly elected Vice President of the world. Well, I want to prove that the Earthbound series is the father to the game he's starring in, called Citizens of Earth.
Wow, well, I hope that we can help to bring some closure to this issue. Let's see what the Vice President looks like, shall we? Okay, that's your son, huh?
Yes, dear.
Okay, well, let's bring out... Well, you know what? Before we bring our next guest out, let me tell you, he's not an ordinary guest. He's a bit of a celebrity in some circles. Watch what some of these people here have to say about him. I remember seeing the preview for the original Mother back in the day, in Nintendo Power's Pack Watch section. Years later, I wound up getting Earthbound for Super Nintendo at Best Buy, coincidentally for a Best Buy. It was brand new, in that big box with the strategy guide for $20. I loved the game and was hyped to play the original in Part 3 on emulators.
I love Ness in the Smash Brothers games. He's my favorite character, and I kick all sorts of butt whenever I play as him. Name a type of butt, and I guarantee Ness and I can kick it. I've been playing Smash Brothers since my big brother showed it to me when I was 3 in the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our next guest, Ness. So, Ness, it's a pleasure to meet you. How are you doing? That's great to hear. I'm doing good, thanks. So, Ness, tell us about how you and Mom met each other.
Those were the days. We had some good times, didn't we, Ness?
Apparently some very good times if a big baby like that supposedly came out of it. Let's take a look at the side-by-side comparison of the two, shall we? Audience, what do you think? Let's take a look from a different perspective. They look a lot more alike from this angle, don't they?
As you can all see, both games have modern-day settings, a quirky sense of humor, some similarities in art style, the non-random encounters, where you initially engage with enemies on the map, fighting them on a separate battle screen, where you have the same Dragon Quest inspired template, but with tripped out and colorful backgrounds that Earthbound is known for. The offbeat naming of skills are similar, as are the description of actions within battles.
Well, I got a chance to play Citizens of Earth a bit, so I definitely see the similarities. But I'd like to introduce another guest that can maybe shed some light on the differences. Paula, come on down.
Oh, we want some respect. I don't know who you think you are, but you need to learn to respect
All right, ladies, that's enough. Sit down. Paula, it's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you as well, Cuppa.
So, Paula, tell us about some of the differences between Citizens of Earth and Earthbound.
Well, Cuppa, from what I've seen, I'm sure you know this since you've actually played the game. The VP doesn't actually fight in battles himself. He just recruits regular citizens to fight for him. Kinda reminds me of the Suikoden series, if you're familiar with those games, where they had 108 characters that you were able to recruit throughout the game. On Eden Industries' website, the developer of the game says that there are no NPCs that you can't either fight or recruit.
That actually seems pretty cool.
It does.
The site also describes the game as Earthbound meets Pokemon/Suikoden.
During battles, you have your characters, each with their own abilities, and instead of having a standard attack or fight, it seems as if each character has the equivalent to that, which doesn't use energy. Energy is displayed as those little bluish balls underneath each character's hit points. I like those balls.
That's why you're in this predicament now.
Yeah, I'll just call them orbs. Some abilities cost a certain amount of energy, and some abilities will gain that character an energy orb. From the description on Eden Industries' website, and while fighting the first boss, it's apparent that energy plays a huge part in the strategy in the game, where you have to balance between using certain abilities that require the usage of energy and the abilities that restore it. I'm not quite sure what that yellowish bar underneath the character status box does, but I don't remember anything like that being in Earthbound.
I don't know what that is either, and I also didn't pay much attention to the percentage in the lower left-hand side of the screen during the battles. Leveling up appears to be the same as in most other RPGs. Their site also talks about how abilities don't become obsolete as you and your characters progress through the game. For example, say you're playing a different RPG, and you have an ice spell that is, surprisingly, called Ice. After a while, you get another spell called Ice 2, and later in the game, you get Ice 3. Pretty cool example, right? Well, in this game, a character would just have ice, though from the looks of this game, it seems like it would be something called, I don't know, snow cone or some other quirky name, and instead of learning a skill to replace that one, that particular skill would increase in strength as that character levels up.
The same goes for equipment. When no piece of gear becomes outdated, they're just a little different. And that actually rhymed. It may have their own pros and cons, so you won't necessarily have to go and buy new equipment just because you're in a new area. At least, that's according to the developer's website. While walking around, the vice president can make the citizens in his party charge several steps forward, and I don't know, it looks like that may be similar to Earthbound, where we would defeat weaker enemies on the map just by approaching them from behind, but it's still different.
Regardless, Citizens of Earth is definitely in my must-play for 2015, and I am looking forward to it. But anyways, I have the DNA results right here in my hand. The results are in, and in the case of whether Citizens of Earth is the child of Earthbound, you are the father. So Ness, what are you going to do now that you found out that Earthbound is the father of Citizens of Earth?
Wow. You can call your father just as Ness used to call his.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thank you for joining us. DJ Who Did It? Take it away.
Stay tuned for the next episode. First Player Impressions. Make sure to subscribe. What?